and welcome. It's election day in the United States and people are lining up to cast their votes. This after months of intense campaigning by Democratic nominee Kamala Harris and her Republican challenger Donald Trump. Most analysts are calling it a very tight race. Various polls have predicted a neck-and-neck contest which brings the focus on the swing states to decide the fate of this presidential election. Donald Trump earlier today, after casting his vote, spoke to the press, and this is what he had to say.
No, I feel very confident. I have felt, we went in with a very big lead today, and it looks like Republicans have shown up in force. So we'll see how it turns out, but it seems that they have really shown up in force. I just got a call from Dan Patrick in Texas. He said they've never seen anything like it. Look, I ran a great campaign. I think it was maybe the best of the three. We did great in the first one. We did much better in the second one, but something happened. And this was the best, I would say this was the best campaign we ran.
The former Swedish PM spoke to my colleague Vishnu Shom on Trump and Harris's policies and what US polls mean for Russia-Ukraine war. Listen in.
Joining us now, a very special guest. Carl Bildt is co-chair of the European Council on Foreign Affairs. He's also a former Prime Minister of Sweden. Mr. Bildt, wonderful speaking to you. Thank you very much for being with us.
Wonderful to be with you.
Is there a real concern, Mr. Bildt, in Europe that if Donald Trump comes to power, that funding, US funding for the war in Ukraine might come to an end?
There are serious concerns, I would say, on two different aspects of Trump policies. One is the one that you mentioned, the American commitment to the security of Europe, where defense of Ukraine at the moment is the most acute issue, but there are wider issues associated with that. And then there is concern with his trade policies. We are dependent upon foreign trade and open global economy, and we have no interest in global trade wars of the sort that his policies might lead to.
But let's talk a little bit more about Ukraine. I was in Kiev about a month and a half back, and I asked President Zelensky this question, saying that if Trump comes to power, how would things change? Because the war is in a critical phase. And he seemed to suggest that in his personal conversations with Trump, there wasn't anything evident immediately that might be the case. Do you therefore believe that could essentially be rhetoric leading up to these elections, that in terms of support for Ukraine may not necessarily end?
I think it will be very difficult for the United States to abandon Ukraine completely, because that will be seen as a sort of defeat for the US, a defeat for the West, and it will have profound security policy implications for Europe. That being said, there is no question that I have been skeptical of the US part of aid for Ukraine. And the US aid has been important, primarily on the military side. If you take the overall support for Ukraine, it is, of course, overwhelmingly European, but also other global partners. Japan has been important, for example. But the US has been important, and a decline in that support will be a substantial setback, no question.
Now, all eyes are on the great American battle that's going on right now. Ami Bera, the longest-serving Indian-American congressman in the House of Representatives, earlier today spoke to my colleague Maria Shakil. Listen in.
Ami Bera, who is the longest-serving Indian-American congressman in the House of Representatives, is joining us. Mr. Bera, thank you so much. Congressman, it's almost certain that you will win California's 6th district. So should I be congratulating you now or wait for the results?
We always want to wait for the results, but I feel pretty confident about where we are.
Okay, so tell me, what have you really worked out that is giving you this confidence? Of course, given your experience and how close this election is turning out to be.
Now, obviously, for my race, I have a better district and an easier district. But at the top of the ticket with the presidential campaign, having gone to some of the states that are being contested, I think Vice President Harris is in a good position. But now it's just about the field campaign, getting people to vote and cast their ballots. And I think that's a place that we do it better than the Republicans. So cautiously optimistic, but this will be a close race at the presidential level.
Okay, actually, you've put it rather well that it has to be cautiously optimistic at this stage. But Congressman, this is your 6th consecutive term, and if you win, and you are also the senior most and the longest serving Indian American congressman in the House of Representatives. So that certainly is a rare feat.
It is. So that's the longest tenure in United States history. You know, what we affectionately call ourselves as a Samosa caucus. I think all 5 members will get reelected, and potentially, you know, we'll add another Indian American in Virginia as well as Arizona. So you might see the Samosa caucus grow to 7 members.
Now, as America votes in US, here in India, there was special prayers at a temple in Tamil Nadu for the family deity of Kamala Harris's mother, where prayers were offered for her victory. Born of an Indian mother who went to US, will Kamala Harris create history as the first woman US president is the big question.
The US presidential polls has a special resonance at the Tulasendrapuram village in rural southern Tamil Nadu. While it may not make an impact to presidential candidate Kamala Harris's chances, these special pujas at the local temple for the family deity of Kamala Harris were offered to pray for her victory. This is her maternal grandfather P.V. Gopalan's village, and Kamala's name remains engraved on the temple wall for her donation for renovation years ago. Arul Moli, the block's woman representative, is the one organizing the puja power for the presidential contender.
பெண் அப்படின்னா வீட்டை விட்டு வெளில வர்றதே ஒரு சாத்தியமான விஷயத்தில் அமெரிக்காவில் துணை ஜனாதிபதி ஆனாங்க ஜனாதிபதி வேட்பாளர் அறிவிச்சிருக்காங்க அப்படின்னா எல்லா ஒட்டுமொத்த பெண்களுக்கு சந்தோஷம், ஒரு ரோல் மாடல், அடுத்த ஸ்டேஜுக்கு போகிறதுக்கான ஒரு இதுதான் அவங்க கண்டிப்பாக ஜெயிக்கணும், அவங்க ஜெயிச்சே ஆகணும்.
This inspire all the girls, ladies to become a president, to do administrate the rule the country.
A poster in the village celebrates the vice president as their proud daughter. Today, 2 American women supporters of Kamala join the villagers rooting for her victory.
As women, how important for the US to have a Madam President?
It's time. It's more than time. It's time for kindness, and it's time for democracy, and it's time for a woman. Yes.
Thousands of miles away from the US, hearts beat here yet again for Kamala at the ancestral village of her grandfather Gopalan, who had a tremendous impact on her. It's a beautiful, inexplicable bonding, and people here hope Kamala would set history. At Tulasendrapuram with Suresh, Sam Daniel, NDTV.
One of the only things that Democrats and Republicans agree on is they are calling this election existential, that it is absolutely critical and the future of the country depends on the outcome. And I am in the swing state of Georgia, one of the 7 states that's really going to determine whether Kamala Harris or Donald Trump becomes president next January. And I'm in a particularly interesting county called Gwinnett County, just to the northeast of the city of Atlanta. This is one of the most diverse counties in the southeastern United States, and it's a bit of a litmus test, a microcosm of the United States. And we expect that the results that'll come out of here after the polls close will give us an early indication of who's going to win the election. Now, the background here might look familiar to a lot of viewers in India, because not only schools and libraries are being used as polling places, but also houses of worship. And I'm actually at a Hindu temple in Gwinnett County that is one of the polling places today. Well, Pennsylvania is the most critical because it has 19 electoral votes, and you need 270 to clinch victory for the presidency. Georgia here has 16, as does North Carolina. So Pennsylvania is considered the most critical. Georgia, also Very, very important. North Carolina is expected to go for the Republicans and Donald Trump. If Kamala Harris wins in North Carolina, that will be considered an upset. If she's able to take what's called the blue wall in the northeastern United States, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, then she's expected to get to that 270 electoral votes. And the other two states that are really in play are the two Sunbelt states of Arizona and Nevada, but they have much fewer electoral votes. And, you know, every poll we've seen for weeks and weeks has shown whether Trump is up 1 or Kamala Harris is up 1 or 2, that's all within the margin of error of the polls, which is usually 3.5%. So all the major polls are saying that this has been virtually tied coming into election day.
With that, a quick break on the show. More on the other side. Stay tuned. The Parliament Standing Committee on External Affairs, headed by Congress MP Shashi Tharoor, will meet at 11 a.m. tomorrow. Foreign Secretary is likely to brief the committee about current developments on the India-Canada issue. Remember, there have been diplomatic tensions between India and Canada, clashes between two Indian communities at a temple, Hindus and Sikh. How is it likely to pan out, and what role Indian diplomacy has to play to normalize situations between the two countries is something we will have to wait and see. For now, we know that there will be a meeting of the Parliament Standing Committee on External Affairs headed by Shashi Tharoor tomorrow. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar has said that the attack on a Hindu temple in Brampton in Canadian province of Ontario was deeply concerning. Jaishankar further said that it was unacceptable that Indian diplomats had been placed under surveillance by Canada. A Canadian police officer was suspended on Monday after a video went viral on social media showing his participation in a pro-Khalistan protest outside a Hindu temple in Brampton. The suspended Peel Regional Police officer, identified as Harinder Sodhi, was caught on camera holding a Khalistan flag while others in the protest chanted anti-India slogans.
I think what happened yesterday at the Hindu temple in Canada was obviously deeply concerning. You would have seen the statement first by our official spokesperson, and also the expression of concern by our Prime Minister yesterday. That should, I think, convey to you how deeply we feel about it.
A landmark judgment of the Supreme Court on property. Not every resource owned by a person can be considered a material resource of community to be used for common good, the Supreme Court said in a landmark judgment earlier today, which could impact property ownership at large. The court noted that the Indian economy has already transitioned from dominance of public investment to the coexistence of public and private investments. My colleague Sunil Prabhu gets us this report.
Well, what it means is that if you or me have a private property, a house, it cannot be procured unless you can get the public trust doctrine. It meets that requirement, or it is for the greater common good, which shall have to be determined, as I said, through a determination of the Supreme Court of a public trust document that has been put out. So you just can't, in today's new, as the Chief Justice of India pointed out, who was giving the judgment for 7 judges, there was a concurring judgment of Justice Nagratna. So it's actually 8:1. The one dissenting point, they were disagreeing with the late Justice Krishna Iyer on the issue about the fact that all private property can be acquired for the greater common good. What they have said is that the economy has transformed, as you rightly said. It's become an economic democracy, and it's in this context that you can definitely take over you can't take over private property unless it is for the greater common good, and that through a public trust doctrine, which the Supreme Court has already envisaged.
Now, in a massive relief to about 17 lakh madrasa students in Uttar Pradesh. The Supreme Court upheld the constitutional validity of Madrasa Education Act 2004, setting aside the Allahabad High Court order that struck down the law on grounds that it violated the principles of secularism. The Supreme Court said that madrasas granting Fazil and Kamil degrees beyond class 12 cannot be recognized by Uttar Pradesh Madrasa Board as there is conflict with the UGC Act, and to that extent it was unconstitutional. In a troubling development, recent deaths of 10 elephants in the Bandhar Tiger Reserve have been linked to the consumption of the kodo plant, according to a forensic report submitted by the Center for Wildlife Conservation, Management and Disease Surveillance at the ICAR, Indian Veterinary Research Institute in Bareilly in Uttar Pradesh. My colleague Anurag Dwari has this report.
As per our sources from Bandhar Tiger Reserve, that kodo is the cause, and now after this report from the disease surveillance ICAR, Indian Veterinary Research Institute in Bareilly, they have debunked the claims of intentional poisoning of elephants in Bandhavgarh, which is in Umaria district, Madhya Pradesh. And the report was submitted to the Deputy Director of Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve. And the report clearly says that the deaths was due to the contamination from kodo crops, specifically its fungal toxins. The report followed an investigation based on visceral organ, content sent by the reserve to the institute on November 2nd. The samples including liver, kidney, spleen, heart, lung, stomach were analyzed for the presence of various toxic substances. These included cyanide, nitrate, nitrite, heavy metals, commonly used insecticides, and the active principle of cyclopyozonic acid. So analysis found no traces of other, poisonous substances, but cyclopyozonic acid was detected in all pooled samples with concentrations exceeding 100 ppb.
In another story, Delhi Environment Minister Gopal Rai chaired a meeting with concerned departments on the issue of rising pollution levels in national capital. The air quality of the national capital has been in the very poor category in the last few days, with many areas in Delhi reaching severe category. At a meeting, it was decided that there would be a campaign against outdoor burning, and the Environment Minister also said that they want permission for artificial rain. In a significant move to make India a sporting powerhouse, Indian Olympic Association formally sent a letter of intent to the future host commission of the International Olympic Committee expressing New Delhi's interest in hosting the Olympic and the Paralympic Games in 2036. According to a report, the letter was submitted on the 1st of October. The buzz around India's bid to host prestigious Olympics has been ongoing since Paris Olympics in August. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on multiple occasions expressed India's interest in hosting the Olympic and the Paralympic Games in 2036. Kiwi spinner Ajaz Patel has been the toast of the town after his incredible match haul at the Wankhede Stadium that sunk the Invincibles or the Indian cricket team. He picked up 11 wickets in the match to hand India a 25-run loss in Mumbai. The hero of the match as well as the player of the match for the Mumbai Test spoke to us earlier this evening. Ajaz, one of the beautiful memories of the Test match for me was of your daughter. After you guys had completed the route, she came out, outstretched arms there. What does she remember? What are her memories of the Test match?
Yeah, to be honest, it's been very, very special, I guess, to have my family here. My wife, my daughter, mum and dad were here as well. And so it was really cool to be able to play in front of them. Obviously, I don't get many opportunities to play at home. So for them to be here and be able to watch me play has been very special. And, my daughter, it's a really special moment, I guess, to be able to take them out onto the field. she's very young at this point in time, so I don't know how much of it she will remember, but she has a great memory. So hopefully she'll remember it. But I think at the moment she doesn't really quite understand what just happened and what had unfolded. So it'll be a nice memory to share with her, I guess, once she's a little bit older and understands a bit more around what's just happened.
Just let me ask you about the celebrations in the Kiwi camp. Are they still going on? What have they been like?
Yeah, there was certainly some celebrations, I guess, post game, but they were also wrapped up fairly quickly because obviously we've got some series coming up, and then we've got a big series coming up back home. So yeah, while we do certainly make sure we enjoy the wins because they are special, especially test victories and test matches are extremely special for us, and we hold them in very high regard. So we certainly celebrated that, and it was nice because I guess when you're having those celebrations, it's nice to just sit around a table and have some good conversations around, you know, what we just achieved, how we went about it, what different people did throughout the series was quite special to kind of be able to do and share and have those moments together.